Welcome to SheEO with Sophie. Just a quick note from me. If you like what you hear, go ahead and join the SheEO Club right now by hitting that subscribe button. Not only will you never miss an episode, but you'll also be helping us out more than you know. Thank you and enjoy. We're super excited to have Maddy Del Monte with us. Maddy is the Vice President of Transformation at Paramount Global, one of the biggest names in media, streaming, and entertainment. She leads the charge of strategic initiatives across the office of the CTO, tech communications, AI operations, and tech training, basically making tech teams smarter, more engaged, and more awesome. But that's not all. Maddy is also the founder and CEO of Agile Outlaw and pusher of Lean for Agile Gangster LLC. She's the mastermind behind helping companies adopt Agile and Lean principles to make sure they're always on their A game. In today's conversation, we're diving into how the skills you learn as a performer can translate into skills for life, why being a yes person might not be such a bad thing, and the art of learning to pivot when life throws you a curveball. So buckle up and get ready for some serious insights and a few laughs along the way. Let's get going. Hi, Maddy. Welcome to the SheEO with Sophie podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I think let's dive in. It'd be awesome to give everyone a little bit of an idea of yourself, your background, and who you are. So are you able to just give me a brief introduction?
Sure. I'm Maddy Del Monte. I work for Paramount. I have about 25 to 30 years of experience in the tech field and various different fields within media, finance. I've done a various different roles in anything from production manager to web diva at one time, all the way up to working on the very first magazine for the web, which was a lot of fun, called Net Guide. It was like the TV guide for the internet, which was kind of cool. And then worked my way up into various different lean jobs, change jobs, and find myself right now as Vice President of Transformation, Office of the CTO, supporting the Chief Technology Officer, running communications, belonging, and training.
So I actually want to ask a question because I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what transformation is. So can you just give us a little bit of an overview around what you would class as transformation within a business?
Sure. So for me, transformation incorporates everything. So how do you transform people? How do you transform process? And how do you transform technologies? And those could be, leaving everything different or better than the way you found them. So, from a process perspective, can you look at something and say, we are going to change or make better in some way this process? It's not that it's hard or anything to begin with. It just is, how can you take it to that next level and transform it into something more substantial? So I think a lot of people think transformation and they think money cutting, I'm going to optimize, all those types of things, maximize value. But you can do it with so many different things when it comes to, people. So, how do you make somebody beloved to an organization? So how do you transform the culture of an organization? And how do you become that culture rainmaker, so to speak, that people look to come up with those new ideas and things like that. So that's my brief way of it's really just leaving everything better, or even in some cases different than what you find it.
That's really useful. And it's funny actually, because many of the conversations I've had so far, everyone's talking about transformation and change. And a lot of people that have already been on the podcast are very much, the CTOs, and they're running these technology departments, and they talk about that transformation and changing someone who actually can help drive that is such a key role within an organization. And like you say, it's all around that people piece, which everyone says everything comes down to people and how you work with people. So I think that's an area of the industry that if you don't know about transformation, it's a great place to be and hopefully exciting. which I know you're going to dive into, and you're going to tell me lots of stories that will be interesting.
Yeah, I love the transformation landscape and being able, like, you have to love ambiguity and you have to love problem solving and figuring things out. And naturally, they're all skills that I hate to say, but they're not taught in high school. So, like, when you try to find a different way to solve a math problem or a different way to do something, they're like, no, don't do it that way. And here I am making a career out of it, right? Like, it's so different than the way we're taught. And especially our girls being taught, like our young women, of how they're being steered away from, oh, it has to be fit in this bucket. No, it doesn't have to fit in the bucket.
That's a good little segue, actually, because I spotted that you are a fellow, I suppose, I say drama kid, let's put it that way. So, obviously, having a degree in drama and theatre, how did you go from that to where you are now?
So it's funny. That's the number one question going, how did you end up here? I love saying yes. So, and I think it's the most important thing to say, or even yes and, right? Because I think when you say yes, you know, y- you're able to be agile. You're able to try new things. You're able to look at things in a different light. And more importantly, you're able to look at things and say, I don't like doing this. Like, and that's okay. And I think a lot of people come into roles thinking they have to love it, right? But if you say yes, you get to learn things that you've never learned before. Sometimes you get to try things that either you'll love or hate. And you get to at least experience different things. So I remember the very first time somebody had asked me, do you want to try this? And it was, when the web industry was going down, I want to say the toilet, like, it was high burn, and I was doing UX at the time, and UX wasn't as valued as it could have been. And the person said to me, do you want to try business continuity? And I said, what is it? And they said, well, it's building this lodge over failover test. And then my next question was, is it fun? And I remember the person telling me, yeah, I mean, I think it's fun. And I said, you know what? All right, I'll give it a shot. And I ended up loving it. It was just so much fun. I used to build like the big tests that, we do these failover tests, and then I put some fun in it. So like saying yes, I feel like having great mentors helps tremendously. So having people who you can bounce ideas off of or want to help steer your career, or sponsors to talk about you in rooms that you're not in, that helped tremendously. And let me tell you, my biggest drama skill, improv. So improv and thinking on your feet has been a life game changer. So much so I've always wanted to take improv at like Second City. But I think that having that skill of being able to just think on your feet and not have anything phase you has helped tremendously. So those drama kids who've tried behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, directing, all those types of things, building sets, prop mistress, you get all that experience. It all comes to play in everything that you do.
I agree. I think working in, drama, theatre, before say performing arts as a whole, you know, the amount of times you would have to just get up and get on stage, and the amount of times I would forget what I was doing, and you just have to figure it out. And I do think that that's such a lifelong skill to have that you don't necessarily learn if you don't do something that is out of your comfort zone. And also, I think the other thing that it teaches you is, you're nervous, you're on a stage in front of people and you've got this adrenaline going, and you learn how to channel that. So I think when so background on me, I used to dance professionally, and I moved out of that. I moved into the corporate world, and really it was about, I just need to make money. So I was like, how do I do that? Because at the time I wasn't making that much dancing, and I had about 5 or 6 different jobs. So, fell into this world of recruitment. But I came into, say, the corporate world, I wasn't phased by it. Like, I was like, oh, I've got a call with a CTO. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, 21 or something at the time, but it didn't phase me because I was like, well, I've been on stage in front of like 1,000 people, 80,000 people, whatever it was. I've got this, it's not going to be as scary as that. So I think that's such a big skill to learn.
Yeah. And I think the part that was really funny too was, for me anyway, at Deloitte, I remember the younger people who were in the same, they call them like cohort as me, would come up and they said, how do you just walk into a partner's office and talk to them? And I was like, look, they're just people at the end of the day, and they just want help, and they just want to be able to, everybody loves help. So just offer help and, just talk to them. They're people, they have lives just like you. And and that was sort of the game changer for some people, because they always put them on a pedestal. Ooh, their partner, or, and for me, I've never put that on a pedestal. They're always people, and they always have needs and wants. And, most of them, who I've come across are just amazing. And, finding that greatness in everybody, and being able to tap into, like, what are you learning from that person? Or, how do you want to come across? So I think all that comes from that acting, that being on stage, I totally agree.
Yeah, I love improv as well. Let's keep that going. I feel like I do that on a daily basis.
Yes.
Yeah, when I'm bored, let me do some improv. Yeah, amazing. And try not to go off topic, but keeping like within the world where you are now, obviously at Paramount, which is absolutely amazing, massive company. I know you've, worked for loads of other businesses as well. But what has been, I suppose, some of the biggest challenges you face as being a female within technology, and how have you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, being a female in technology has been one of my biggest challenges. It's funny, when at one time I would be the only woman in the room. So I call it being your own role model, or being your own, you're setting your own bar. And then, oh, by the way, you're improving upon your own bar each time. Because there's really nobody to measure yourself against. And then, continuing to watch what the guys are doing, right? And how the guys interact, and learning from there. I think one of the nicest and one of the strangest compliments I got was, "Oh, Maddy, you're just one of the guys." And I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, yeah, I am, but I'm a girl. Like, it's like just weird for me. But I think that was it. And then, taking poor feedback and turning it into something. So I remember somebody told me, I'll never amount to anything in media. Could you imagine hearing that in feedback? Like, hey, Sarah, you'll just never amount to anything in media. You'll never, you're not technical enough, would be my favorite. And I'm sitting here now, I'm in media, and oh, by the way, I'm in a technical role. So taking everything you hear with a grain of salt and using it as, okay, this person thinks I'm not technical. There's something about me that's coming across that's not technical. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm not technical. It's the way I'm coming across, or the way that I'm landing on that person. And I think that was a really big piece of, I guess, self-discovery, to say, hey, this person thinks this, I'll never amount to, why won't I amount to anything in media? Is it that I don't know enough about the media space? Is it that this person's just, a mean person, right? Because you come across those people. And then the last I felt like was, you're always going to come across people, especially women. I feel like there's two types of women. There's women who want to help other women, and those are awesome. You're drawn to those. And then there's the women who just want to make it hard for other women because it was hard for them. So for me, I try to steer away. Somebody told me you could steer around somebody, right? You can always steer around somebody. You don't have to go over somebody, but you can steer around somebody. And then the same person, a young mentor, had told me, you know, when you're in high school, do you remember all the cliques that were in high school? He said, the playing field just changes. Those cliques are still in every company, and you just need to find your clique. And I said, wow, so I just need to find those nerdy drama girls who, like having fun, or, so I would seek those people out. Right. and realize that those people are gold, like when you find them. So that's some of the stuff that I've come across when it came to like challenges. And, the whole biased, girl thing is real. I hate to say it, especially in the tech fields. It's getting much better, which is awesome. And then depending on the company and the industry, you see it. So
I just can't believe someone said that you'll never, amount to anything immediate. I mean, wow. I mean, savage. I don't think you, I mean, I get it. We're going to go back to performing arts. Performing arts, trust me, I've been there a few times and I've had a few people be like, oh, you're too fat for this and things like that. I mean, we're going back quite a few years. I don't think they can say that now. But to have that within the corporate world, it's crazy.
yeah, yeah. And I think that, it was a guy who said it, right? And I feel like, definitely a guy in power. And for me, they felt privileged enough to say it. I would never say that to somebody, but for some strange reason, they felt that I needed to hear it. And you know what? I'm kind of glad that they told me that because it made me work really hard when it came to media and, wanting to be successful in this field and the love that I have for it so much more than like a finance or a healthcare or something like that. So, take your bad criticism, as important as your good criticism, because I feel like, or your good critique, I should say, they're all critiquing and you have to look at the person who's giving it. You have to look at the time of your life that it's happening, all those types of things. So,
And if anything, it gives you a chip on the shoulder that you need to try and get rid of, then you've got to prove yourself. So
yeah.
yeah, take it, run with it, and go and show them that you can do it. Yeah, I'm all for that. And a question I have for you, the piece around AI, because I know you're passionate about that, right? We've spoken about it before, of here. So I'm curious, right? As someone who's passionate about AI and innovation, how do you see these technologies impacting women in the workplace? And are there, I suppose, particular opportunities or risks that women should maybe be aware of?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I feel like, look, AI is happening at a pace that nobody anticipated. So you have tools changing instantly coming up. You have them being used in different ways, right? So for me, I always tell people embrace it, become a continuous learner about it. Every woman should be an expert prompter. Every woman should understand the tools that affect their job when it comes to AI and how they could use AI to be more eh, just smarter. So for me, I use it for brainstorming. I use it to come up with shell ideas. I use it if I want to do research. So I send out bots to do research and get research. And then I look at the research that comes back and say, oh, this is obviously not true, or like, yes, oh, that's spot on. So I think all those types of things. And you know what? It's getting so much smarter that it's telling you where it's getting the research. It's telling you confidence scores of the research. So I think for me, if you're not using it to rewrite, check, draft, um, shell things, give me an outline for this. Every woman should be using it in their day job to sort of help drive some of that. But I'd also challenge every woman to look for bias in models. So here's a prime example. I just recently said, hey, I was I don't even remember, it was a photo app. And I said, can you find me photos of administrative assistants for a large corporation? So what would I expect? I'd expect a mix of cultures. I'd expect a mix of men and women, and I'd expect a mix of age. I got none of that. I got women. I got absolutely no men. I got no diversity. I literally had to say to the company, like, what if I remember I was like, well, what if I'm an Asian company? There are no Asian people in this, in this particular image. Oh, wait, guess what? I looked at your grouping. There was no Asian people in any of your groupings. So what does that tell me about your models? Right. And then, just recently I was working with a guy who said, take this picture and age me 10 years and show me what I'd look like. And no matter how he prompted the aging, he always had a beard. And he said, so let me get this straight. Older men all had beards. He couldn't prompt the beard out, right? And sure enough, he reported it to the company and it was a flaw in their model. So continue to look for those flaws in models, are all like, give me a rendition of a beautiful woman. Are they all blonde haired, blue eyes? Are they all thin figured? Are they all right? So are they all those idealistic, right? So challenge your prompting and your models that are coming back. And I think that's what I love about AI, and I challenge everybody to use it, but especially women, because I feel like women are so hesitant to jump in and we're so busy and we think that we're going to be learning another skill, right? But this is a skill that's going to save you time. You're going to love it because you can bounce ideas off of it, which women love, right? You can use it for problem solving, which I love. You can use it on so many levels. So I just would want women to jump in and learn how to prompt. And there's so many great resources out there on the web.
I definitely don't utilize it enough, and I'll say that. I do use AI occasionally, but I've seen so many things pop up that I'm like, oh my God, it can do my calendar. I'm like, great, I definitely need that. Basically, a PA, that would be fantastic. So, yeah, I need to look into it, and I think that anyone should, if it can help your day, and especially if you're trying to fit so much into a day, and I run off a calendar a lot. It's gonna, hopefully shorten some of my windows to get stuff done. So I think
Yeah.
it'll be
And Sophie,
useful.
use it at home too.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't even realize it. I remember that just recently I was running super late and my daughter was applying to makeup school. And what do I know about makeup school, right? Absolutely nothing. So I asked AI, what are the top 10 questions when you're interviewing in a makeup school to ask? And they came back, they were really good. So, just recently I worked on a prompt here and it's like, look, it's the day before Valentine's Day. I totally forgot to cook something for dinner. Can you give me 6 recipes I can cook within 30 minutes? Pull the recipes so I have them. And build a shopping list for me too. And it did it. And then you can say, I want it in this style. I want it vegan, vegetarian. I want it in the style of Gordon Ramsay. I want and then you could even say, I want an appetizer, main, and dessert. And it's phenomenal. It's the best brainstorming tool ever.
What tool do you use for that? Like what AI system is it?
So I love Microsoft Copilot. I love ChatGPT. I love, somebody had just told me about a website called Perplexity, which is really good. So there's some really great tools that you can just, ask it questions and have it feed you back. And now, your iPhone, as simple as something like that is giving you AI back. The big thing is like, do you talk to it, Maddy? Do you type to it? I'm a typer person, but my leader is a talking person. It's just total preference, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm looking at a new iPhone because I've got a really old one because I'm not that techie, although I work in kind of tech. But like all the new ones are like, oh yeah, AI built in. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I'll be a new woman. Give me a few weeks, let me get a new phone, and then yeah, you talk about obviously it helps with your home life as well. I'd love to understand a little bit how you have balanced obviously your career, which is demanding because it's media, right? So, a demanding career with family life. How have you navigated that? What have you done that's kind of helped you throughout that?
Yeah, I joke about the whole work-life balance thing because at any given time, I feel like you have work, you have balance. Sometimes work wins, sometimes home life wins. I feel like um you have to be prepared for either, right? But at the end of the day, whoever loses can't feel like they've lost. So let's just say work spins up, it's crazy. You have to miss something at your kid's um, school, right? And it's something important and you feel that, you should have been there for it. Well, guess what? I've learned that sometimes anyone is better than not having nobody, right? So it became, I can't make it. Wow. Do you know you're going to be the only one who has a grandma there? How awesome is that? Or you're going to be the only one who has an aunt there. So how you sell it,
Mm.
right? So they never feel like they're missing out. At work, it was kind of, you know, it, what am I what am I giving up? So I remember somebody telling me the story, and it was the head of Ogilvy Mather at the time, and they had said, I had a choice between going to a board meeting or going to my son's first baseball game. And they had said, they talked to their mentor, and they said, why is that even a choice? And they said, what do you mean? Like, the board meeting is like this big thing. And I'm really leaning toward the board meeting. And they had said, no, it's the baseball game. And they said, what do you mean? And they had said, well, you tell me every week that you're watching your son practice and it's like this big thing for him and he can't wait. What if he hits his first ball there? What if he hits a home run? They're like, he'll always remember that you weren't there. Now let's go to the board meeting. It's like, you missed the board meeting, you catch the notes. Who in 2 weeks' time is going to be like, sorry, Sophie, you are not the board meeting. So, right? So it became this easy choice of how you make those decisions. And sometimes those decisions are made for you, right? Like your child is sick, I get it. Sometimes, something spins up at work. But I feel like you have to have that it takes a village attitude. And even like a single mom came to me and said, I have 4 children. Like, how do I do it? And I said, well, you carve out time that feels special for each one of those things. So, when your leader calls, you make sure that they feel special. When your child comes, they feel special. And oh, by the way, Sophie, don't take yourself so seriously. I remember one time my daughter picked up my work phone and like, I was working at Deloitte. Sure enough, it was a senior partner that called. And I thought like, this is the end of everything. And she picks up the phone and I was walking down the hall and I hear her say, do you know where my bitty baby is? And I was like, oh, type thing, face of horror, grabbed the phone out of our hands. And, you know, I get on the phone and the partner said to me, so Maddie, like, what's a bitty baby? And like, what? It's really important that you stop now and you find it because she seems really upset that she doesn't have bitty. And I thought to myself, you know what? I take myself so seriously that like, there's no priority. There's no, like your family's always priority, but sometimes you feel like your work, like you have to treat your work differently. So here this is a senior partner telling me to stop working, find bitty babies so my daughter's happy. I'm like, did I really need a senior partner to tell me that? Like it was that was like one of those aha moments. So I think like having that balance and being okay with every time stuff is out of balance. Like I'm really good if something's in balance. So like things are calm at home, work's crazy, right? Work is very calm, home life's crazy. I do really, I do my worst when um sickness happens. So like a child is sick, parent is sick, a friend is like something throws me off my game. That's the one that's going to throw me off my game. Everything else, I figured it's just a balance. And it's like, okay, this wins today. What do I have that I can look for on this side that, I can do differently? And I think that's been the hard part, but also like the incredibly amazing part of being able to have conversations about what's going on at home, right? Like a lot of people try to hide it. And I think you can hide it, or you could just basically say, like, look, I have a lot going on at home right now. I'm not using it as an excuse, but I'm trying different things that work. And I just need a little bit of grace, right? And also don't forget to give yourself grace because I think a lot of people they're too hard on themselves. And, they put themselves up on a standard that nobody can be held accountable to, especially as a mom. I feel like you do that.
Yeah. You feel like you have to do everything, and you kind of run around with your hair on fire, and you're upset if you let anyone down, including work or your family, your child, your husband, whatever it may be. But you can't be perfect. You have to remind yourself that you're not perfect, and things won't always go to plan, and you have to, like you say, give yourself grace and appreciate that you can't do everything, and that's okay. And, if everything was absolutely perfect, I mean, that would be fantastic. But I don't think that's ever a case. My dad's spoken about it a few times, especially when I moved to New York. It was a case of, you're uplifting your whole life, everything's going to be all over the shop. And, you've got like key things in your life, your health, obviously your family, work, your home, like where you're living. He was like, all of them for now are literally a little bit up in the air apart from your health. That's okay. And he was like, that's good. That's fine. But then, I think about it like, oh my God, everything is just all over the shop. But actually now, a few years later, I'm like, it wasn't as bad as I thought. It's okay that everything was a bit crazy and not where it needs to be. And there wasn't really much balance, but that happens. And now I'm in a better place, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I have a question for you. Did you like love every second of it? Like for me, it's like I may not have loved it, but I appreciated it for what it was. Like you kind of knew your life was in chaos, but it wouldn't be like that forever.
Did I love every second of it? Honest answer, no. There was a time where I was like, what am I doing? I'm gonna go home. But that now I look back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, like it was such a good learning curve. I feel like I've matured so much over the past few years from this experience. And yeah, now I can really appreciate it. And I think from a work perspective, I am very much like I'll learn from it, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the ups and downs. But I think when I actually talk about like my personal life, I don't enjoy ups and downs in that so much, which I don't think anyone really does. But that one I find it a little bit more difficult to enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think the whole everything is just a point in time. Enjoy it for what it is, and kind of, you know, I'm really lucky like that. Like I feel like I have that philosophy, more in work than I do at home. Trying to build that whole, wow, those teenage girl years, ooh, wouldn't want to relive them again, right? But then you move on to like the college years and you're like, ooh, I'll take those high school years back in a heartbeat. It just totally depends. And I feel like, each year of being a mom gives you like special, wow, that was amazing. And oh, don't want to live through that again. And I think like, but that's what I kind of love about it. Right. And sometimes you want to go back, when you see the next set of, wow, don't want that again, or, because you just never know. And I think like that's the part for me that's just so interesting about being a mom and working, and you're just in a constant state of problem solving, one job to another. Okay, what am I looking at? And a lot of returning moms to work totally undersell themselves. I'm like, do you realize like you were CEO of a household? Like just put that on your, think of that on your resume. You, made sure transportation got taken care of. You made sure like people got fed. You made sure, right? So all that, even like you said, the whole scheduling is just like, wow.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
get it.
agree. I agree. I think trying to run a household, whether it is for family or even just yourself, I've struggled trying to just, balance everything. And oh yeah, I need to book in like a dentist and checkups and stuff. It takes time, right? And you got to think about these things. So yeah, I think it can feed into a role. And how do you think that companies, because obviously you focus on driving like employee engagement and excellence and very much that people transformation piece. How do you think more companies can foster like their environments where women can feel empowered and really push for growth opportunities? And yeah, what can help within these businesses to help these women? push forward?
I think for women, you have to, if you want something, ask. I learned a long time ago that like the word ask is the most powerful word in the English language, and sometimes it's just not the right time to ask and you have to kind of let that sit with you, but you should always ask. And I feel like that's how STEMinist started here. So STEMinist is our women in tech group, and it didn't exist. I always wanted a place where women could throw out ideas, get together. We'd have a all women-centric book club, and we'd be able to feed off each other's networks. Like if you, Sophie, had a daughter who was interested in learning about film, you would put it up on the STEMinist channel, and then we'd find you a mentor in the film field. So for me, asking was a really big part of that. And I just learned the concept of like, your whole life is a novel, right? And sometimes you actually own the pen that writes your book, right? And then sometimes you let the book write itself, right? So at what points do you, and I've been really one of the lucky ones, who's ever written my book has been like amazing. At times I've taken control of the pen, but when I haven't, it's been just as an amazing experience. But like, when do you pick up the pen? When do you let other people, write parts of your story for you? I'm one of those people. It's really hard to contribute to me. Like, I feel like as a woman, I'm not worthy that you should contribute to me, right? Like, I'll do it. And I think we always step into that. So, it's okay to let people contribute to you. And I feel like a lot of women don't do that. And, a lot of companies don't realize that men and women approach problem solving differently. We approach our roles differently. We'll be the one to step up to do, like, I don't want to call it grunt work, but like the work that has to get done all the time. And I think because we're just like, oh, we'll do it, because we're so used to doing it. Like we're used to doing it at home. We're used to doing it here. And then the last bit I feel like is give them opportunities to network. As a woman, you should always be networking. You should be networking internal. You should be networking external. You should be, in bringing your team with you. So like, if you're on the tech side, are you branching yourself over to the business side? If people ask them who you are on the business side, will they even know who you are? And treat yourself like you are Prince or Madonna, or you are that one name. So I am Maddy, right? And if you don't know me as Maddy in tech, then I'm not doing my job. I mean, I feel, right? You're doing your job when somebody literally stops, Maddy, you hear your name in the, being called out or whatever. Or somebody has said, oh, you're Maddy, on the other side of the house or something like that. So for me, it's, I've always, that's always stuck with me of like the whole Prince, Madonna, Maddy thing of like, can I be really known as that one name that everybody knows who you're talking about? And I think like hosting those networking events or, and that's a really tough spot sometimes because everybody's always looking at you. And if you don't have that theater background where like you're constantly on the spot, literally I've walked in and somebody has said, all right, Maddy, open. And I'm like, what? Like open what? So, but now it's gotten to the point, okay, boom, here's my opener or here's my, or here's what I need to open, right? If I don't know. And I think like I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with it. It's never going to be easy to be constantly in the spotlight, but I think you just have to be okay with it. And I feel like the only way you get okay is by networking and meeting other women and finding those women who support women, or guys who support women, or, just learning and growing and finding out about people. My superpower is like, look, I'm a business matchmaker. So, it's a fun job to be. I always love the whole, matchmaking thing in general, but like now I'm a business matchmaker. So it's like, Sophie, are your values the same as this person's values? Oh, you're looking for somebody who's really good at this? Guess what? Sophie's really good at this. And I think the two of you should meet. And the only way you're going to do that, again, is through networking and giving women the opportunity, to have roles that, allow them to network and allow them to branch out of. what they normally do, and seeing potential in people, pushing people to be more of what they can be, I think is really important. And a lot of companies don't necessarily look at individuals. They look at job roles, and they look at money, and they look at, things like that. But at the end of the day, everybody brings a unique skill set to the table. And I think like that's the value that you want to, show toward women, because I feel like they're, especially since the pandemic, I hate to say it, they've been a breed that's been fading out of the workforce, for various different other reasons, running the household, doing this. I feel like our kids' lives have gotten a lot more demanding. Like I was saying, if I would have raised my young girls during the pandemic, I don't think I would have come back to the workforce because it just was too demanding, you know? So I think that, and it's okay to take a step back. I feel like companies should allow women to take a step back and to look back and say, I call it, it's a lattice. So you're taking a step to the side of the lattice as opposed to, climbing that ladder, right? And I think that's important. And a lot of companies, they, or even a lot of women think it has to be upward, upward, upward. And sometimes it's okay to just hang out on a lattice for a little bit and then move up. And I think it's how you have those conversations with your company, with your team, with your leader around those types of things that are important.
Yeah. It's definitely, it comes down to a journey, right? And you can't always be running at 100 miles per hour. I mean, you can try, but it just gets tiring. So you have to, like you say, sometimes take that step back and be like, okay, let me just do some other stuff. I can still, try and get to the top of the corporate ladder if you want to do that, but it's okay to take a year or two away from it if you need to, and then dive back in. I mean, let's be realistic. Most people's work for like 50, 60 years or something crazy. So it's like, you've got time. You've got time to enjoy yourself, but figure it out and figure out the journey. As much as, I mean, I'll dive into 101 different questions with you. I do have a closing question that I want to ask you. And you've maybe touched upon it briefly, but my question is, what one piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, I think I tease and say, wow, only one. I feel like I've learned so much. So, I think that to take those chances and to try something new. And like, look, maybe you went to school to be a, theater major or a, fine arts person, but life takes various different turns. And one thing I figured out is like, if you say yes, you figure out what you don't want to do. So look, I do not want to be a delivery manager on the phone, 3 o'clock in the morning, delivering software. Does that not, does that make me think that it's not the most important job in the world? No, it's a really important job. I just don't want to do it. So like figuring those things out and saying yes and trying something you've never even thought that you would even like, I think is my biggest advice. And then pivoting. So like, it's okay that you don't like something and that you can pivot, but just figure it out and don't wait for it to absolutely hate your job showing up every day to pivot. Like, give it a test trial and say like, look, I'm going to try this whole delivery management thing for like 6 months, but if it doesn't work, I want to be able to know that I can pivot, and I have to keep it constantly thinking about what I'm going to pivot to, because the greatness that you have comes from all those experiences. And without trying stuff you don't like, you'll never realize what you really love. So
Yeah,
that's my advice to my younger self.
I love that. And it's actually really interesting because I obviously work in recruitment, right? And everyone cracks jokes about recruitment and everyone goes, oh, you go through uni, you never actually want to do recruitment. People just fall into it. And I remember when I first joined a recruitment business, I didn't know if I was going to say last. And a friend said to me, he said, oh, if you can do a year, like you'll be fine, you'll make it. And that just stuck in my head, was like, just give it a year, give it my all and see what happens. And since then, actually, managing people, training people, that's something that I always say to them is if they're really struggling, I'm like, okay, give yourself 3 to 6 months, put absolutely everything into it, give it 100%. And at the end of that, if you don't want to be here, or if you're not enjoying it, then fair play. And the amount of times someone has given it 110% and they ended up absolutely loving it and they stay. But it just, comes down to like mindset and just like you enjoying it. And if you are giving it your all, you will either love it or hate it and make a decision from that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just say like, look, I spent all this money to go to college to be an X, right? And they're not willing to try different things. And that's a big mistake because with those things, it'll open up opportunity and you'll learn something from every role you take, no matter what it is. And, whether it's a soft skill, which I call essential skills or hard skills, I think that you take something away from every experience. And I think that just builds to who you are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a great place to end today. So just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. It's been a great conversation. And actually, we do need to catch up around like some drama stuff to see what's going on in New York. You're going to have to give me all the tips and tricks on where to go. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. Thank you.